Perfect. Yeah, welcome everyone. This is Startup Grind Boston Fireside Chat with Jill Lublin. And yeah, really excited to have all of you here joining us. And I'm gonna put or basically we can use the chat function throughout for any questions you guys have, anything you want me to ask Jill throughout the moderated fireside chat today. And then we'll also save some time towards the end, the last 10 minutes or so. If anybody wants to come on stage, raise your hand and ask a question directly. And yeah, just for a little bit of background, Startup Grind itself is an organization started out in Silicon Valley and expanded to hundreds of chapters around the world. And yeah, so this is part of the Boston chapter. Obviously now virtually, you can tune in from wherever you are as well. And then we'll all be coming together in April for a big conference out in Silicon Valley, the annual Startup Grind conference out there as well. And yeah, so, the purpose and mission is really to learn from experts, to learn from entrepreneurs, industry experts and leaders, as well as investors we bring on. And today's topic is really going to focus on creating your brand and getting that recognition and credibility you deserve. So, our audience is primarily entrepreneurs, some intrapreneurs as well, and general startup community looking to learn and share from each other. So yeah, really excited to have all of you out here today. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat as well. Share, LinkedIn and a little bit about the companies you're working with. And also, yeah, any questions you have throughout the event. And with that, yeah, really super excited to have this chat with you, Jill, and great we connected originally through LinkedIn, and now we're on the conversation here. So yeah, you have an incredible background through your bestseller, Guerrilla Publicity, and all the speaking engagements and everything you do to help individuals and companies really understand what their brand is and how to promote it. So yeah, excited to have you kick us off with a quick introduction about yourself, and then we can dive into the fireside chat conversation.
Thank you, Jason. And I am delighted to be here with all of you. I've written 4 books. They're behind me, including Guerrilla Publicity and The Profit of Kindness. And I've been helping companies at all sizes get their message clear, put your name out to the world, and use publicity as a powerful marketing strategy. And that's just been super. And I've been honored and grateful to serve over, gosh, probably 100,000 people over 25 years. And it's just been a great journey.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing to have you here. And so what was, to start at the, before you wrote any of these books and before you really became, a speaker and figure in this space, what sort of led you into getting into, the art of publicity itself?
I was actually in the music business, which was fun. And that really trained me to support others, to create that visibility factor. Music is really all about perception. And I just found myself wandering in, shall we say, to a space of promotion and publicity. I was in law school at the time, and frankly didn't like that, even though I really wanted to go to law school. I thought that was going to be my good path and help me help others. And well, then I got to law school. However, what I started to do during that time was get in the entertainment business, because that was exciting to me and interesting, and I thought would lead the way to other things. And it has, and it did. And here I am, now supporting companies to do the same thing and get that visibility factor going.
Amazing. So, when companies come to you, what are some of the things, they might be struggling through or trying to figure out, that they know they need to turn to an expert to help them out?
So oftentimes with a company, the message is what's not clear. And not only the message, but then having that be consistent, having actions that support it and ways to implement it that are simple and effective, all of which, I'm good at helping companies to identify as well as then implement with a plan in place to make it work. So that's been my focus with most companies, along with um, effective strategies that are, systemized more so, and then continuously implemented through different team members. So not just, of course, the CEO, but really throughout the company. And again, the companies I work with are small one-person operations to much larger companies.
Perfect. Yeah, and I know, one of your focus areas too is, really understanding why you're even looking for publicity to start with. So, yeah, if you want to run us through a little bit about, what you see as the real purpose behind getting publicity.
Well, listen, here's the truth. If nobody knows about your products, your company, your services, how can they do business with you, right? So it's about building visibility and awareness, brand recognition, trust in the marketplace. And of course, publicity leads to ROI, clients, prospects, and that third party authority that, frankly, you can't establish any other way. I don't care what people say about social media, and hopefully somebody will see your post. It's about creating that recognition factor in the marketplace that has other people talking about you, and it makes a huge difference.
Oh, sorry about that. So yeah, what categories do you think fall under, I know there's everything from speaking to social media and, wide range of topics in between. So, where do you typically recommend brands focus on actually increasing the power of their publicity?
So a couple things. One is sometimes your local community is actually really good, and that people forget that there are so many opportunities in, like, the local business journal, for example. Great place. Using announcements. I have a wonderful strategy that comes every 30 days to people to, announce themselves and to create visibility locally in the community. So that really works. Networking is highly effective, like what we're doing here now, showing up on groups and places where you can create connections and collaborations is really key. And I believe in both local and national visibility building activities is what I like to call it, right? And I think that that's really important. But I find, particularly in the startup area, and I've worked a lot with, technical, some scientific. Um, the problem is landing on that message that will take you to the next evolution of, your growth. And, messages, by the way, don't stay the same forever and ever and ever. They don't. We've seen major companies, show that, whether it was Coke or, Nike's Just Do It. Obviously, it's been there a long time. But the truth is, your message has to evolve with the company and the progress of where you want to head, right? New products, new innovations, et cetera. And I think that that's a key, that you're okay with that, but also let's find the one that you're going to settle on right in this moment, take that to the next level of evolution, and then shift up again. I recommend people look at their message every 30 days, and that actually really helps.
So what, yeah, just to give us like a frame to work off of, what do you think of as, some of your messages or current messages that you're putting out to the community that you built?
So, couple things. One is, well, my message is really about what's the problem out there that you solve, right? What is it that that you do out in the marketplace that's unique. And so for me, I have a focus on guerrilla publicity, is what I call it. And that is using high impact, highly effective publicity strategies that don't cost a fortune and are simple to implement. I am big on systems. I am big on what I like to call visibility building activities. And what's really fun for me is the opportunity for people to use publicity to create the 3 M's, I like to call it: magnetize, monetize, and multiply, right? And that is what publicity does for you. Most importantly, it's getting you clients, connections, leads, referrals. And I think that's really important as you spread your message to the world.
I really like that. Yeah, that's an amazing sort of strategy, and I like the simplification into those 3 categories there. So yeah, I mean, a lot of our audience too is entrepreneurs, either founders or other team members and in a startup as well. So yeah, one question we get a lot is how to really balance that personal branding with the branding and marketing you're doing for your company. Do you have any advice on how entrepreneurs can go about that process?
Well, I think as a CEO, depending on what you're doing, you obviously want to be known for that. You want to have your own bio, and then look at maybe a company bio. Like what moves the company forward so that people get what you do, who you are, and as I like to say, why they should care, right? So, I think that that's important, that we look at what's the service you're providing, and then how does it tie into what's going on in the marketplace. And I think as a CEO, yes, you have to be known for your brand. You have to have some recognition. I did have to decide, in one moment, was it going to be jilllublin.com, which is actually my website, right? But also I run a publicity company, right? And we do strategy and focus with that. And because I've written books, yes, my name has to be known. So I think that there does need to be a decision, and certainly I can help with that, about where are you in the personal branding, company wide, versus the power of what the company is doing, and letting that stand on its own.
Amazing. Yeah, and then sort of building off of that, and you've talked a little bit already about creating even like the most relevant, pretty frequently updated, every month, that message you want to be known for. So what are, I guess, a lot of times it's easier to create that long message than to really narrow it down. So what are the processes you work with on finding, or sort of toning down that longer mission statement into what you really want to focus on this month or this year, and helping all of your clients and what they're really looking for?
Well, I think, more now than ever, people don't have patience or time to filter through your messages, right? And you have to kind of come out the gate with simple, easy messages that are focused, 5-year-old. I sat with a wonderful technology company doing incredible work out with apps and technology in and out of buildings. But the truth is, the way they were structuring their message, you couldn't understand anything. And it won't help your clients if they can't understand what you're saying to them. So one of the things I'm big on is, let's make the message really simple, really 5-year-old, able to communicate in probably like 4 sentences, right? And just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. And I think that's a key piece, is that simplicity, that 5-year-oldness, that ability to translate it. It does help you actually with all the kind of clients you're working with, even the ones who speak your jargon. Yeah, and I think that that's a real piece. You know, as I'm looking at people here in the chat, you've got pieces that are actually really important for today, with wellness, with home learning, right? With technology to help startup businesses. These are all important foundations for the world today. And I think as we, you know, move into the different phase, a new year, you want to be looking at the calendar year, what's upcoming, where you can fit in. All of that will be key and essential to what products you're moving, and helping others to understand why it's relevant for them. So I think filtering through messages is one of the keys of success, where we start to be able to make the message relevant to as many people as possible in your target market. And I think that's key.
And you know, I love the physical virtual background behind you as well. So yeah, what is the profit of, or the theme behind the profit of kindness, and how does that translate into you know, building your brand here?
Yeah, so yeah, these are each of my books. This third edition of Guerrilla Publicity, and then recently came out with The Profit of Kindness. The Profit of Kindness is really about focusing in on how to use kindness in business to create more culture of not only, you know, helpful internally, but also externally. And interestingly enough, what I did was I created 7 pathways to kindness. And that leads to return on kindness principles we call rocks. You know, everyone's always interested in ROI, and we also have rocks, return on kindness principles, that help you to achieve more ROI. And as you can probably notice in the environment now, major companies are taking on, healthcare companies I've seen with a bus on human kindness, that's Dignity Health, right? And it's fascinating to me that Honda, the car company, was running kindness commercials. So it's very much in the marketplace now. And kind companies are getting more publicity. And in fact, we do run an intentional kindness community now, where I come together and we have a 10-minute speaker and wonderful leads and referrals and connections. So we run this fabulous kindness community now, based on the profit of kindness, where we get to practice consistency in that. And maybe Mary Beth can actually post it in the chat. We'll give you a link for that. Happy to have you be part of it. Would be wonderful.
Yeah, that would be great. And are you seeing, you know, more emphasis now than in the past around, you know, how kind or how impactful businesses are?
In terms of what people are thinking about it?
Yeah, like, you know, customers choosing, you know, more kind businesses, or you know, yeah, I feel like that's been a major trend on people looking beyond just the products and services themselves.
Absolutely. I find that most people, consumers, are making decisions about companies based on who they are out in the marketplace. What are their values? Values and mission is big right now. People are looking at you know, companies that are green, companies that are concerned with their employees and their footprint and how they show up in the marketplace. Absolutely, values are big, and what you stand for and what you stand up for, I think, is really important. We saw that with Black Lives Matter. We saw it with Stop Asian Hate. We've, you know, seen people fall out of favor, CEOs and all kinds of companies, consistent with what's going on in the marketplace. You know, I got asked to do a lot of interviews when Uncle Ben's and Aunt Jemima changed their marketing, you know, reflecting on a name that was old and certainly well known, but had come a time, meaning the time has come where it's time to shift that. And they did, and they did it actually fairly well. But there's a lot of talk about it, and oh my gosh, should they do it? And a little bit of a controversy around it. And yet, they managed to shift into a time where they had to rename a product, which, by the way, is huge when you're looking at a product that's well known and it's been in the marketplace for as long as they have. So I just think what we're looking for is companies that are standing for something. And I think, as you're setting your missions and visions and values, as well as your visibility building campaigns, your publicity, that there are times you want to go out just about that, or make statements out in the market that help you to stand out. And I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, no, I love those examples too. And, even this last month, or yeah, Groundhog Day this month, the Washington football team / Redskins finally picked their new name of the Washington Commanders too. And yeah, so definitely, brands that needed to be updated, getting more updated. And obviously like that comes with, a lot of positive publicity, but definitely like some people, posting negative comments or, but I think as you mentioned, as a brand, you have to figure out what you want to stand up for and sort of, create the new brand and new direction off of that.
Right. And I think the simplicity factor, I mean, I'll just, be straight. I'm looking at chats and what you're all writing, and I think it is wonderful and fascinating. Here's honestly a bit of a problem. I'm looking at it going, what exactly does that mean, right? And I think we have to stand back, because here's the problem in the marketplace is that you, meaning you as CEO, as developer of your different companies and apps and operations, you understand what you're talking about. But now pull back and let's look at, does the public understand what you're talking about? And I think that's a key factor for a lot of people, that's the hardest part, right? As that people don't understand what I would call, how do you make your message matter to others? And I think that's really important, Jason, that we can get so wrapped up in our own, here's what we do in our kind of day-to-day operations, that we forget that guess what? You got your public, that's why we call it public relations. You got to relate to your public and have your public understand what you're offering, why it's important. Yes, what your values and what you stand for are. You've got to do different kinds of initiatives that help people understand you in different ways. So that makes a huge difference, right? And yes, Scott, it is hard to tell the story when you're standing in the middle of it, which is why people like me exist, right? You do you, and then I come in and help you to create that visibility factor that really supports who you are.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty easy to think, or to understand the story you're putting out because the business in and out, or your personal story in and out, but it might not. You might leave out the most important details or what's actually really relevant to your audience if you don't know who they are and what they're looking for.
Right. And, it is hard to see your story when you're in the middle of it. This goes for every business. Listen, I got brought into Philips Corporation. You've heard of them, obviously, to the marketing departments who said, we're not reaching the customers in the way. And believe me, they have a lot of money to spend on their messaging. And they too were a bit lost in how do we tell a news story? How do we readjust with times? And I think particularly because these times have been a change in so rapidly and intensely, and people are changing, and the great resignation is happening, which affects business at every level and so many kinds of businesses, right? So, this is what's so key is that there's the good news is there are many aspects that we can tie back into. And I think that's the key, is keep tying into different aspects of business, not always like tell your story or just talk about your product or your service or your offering. What's something you can tap into? And I think those are good questions.
Yeah, and I think a challenge that comes to, especially with the growth of businesses, is always if you end up having multiple audiences you're serving, how do you create that effective message that spans all of them? So yeah, any advice on how we can sort of navigate that challenge?
So don't try to be everything to everyone, right? So first we're obviously looking at what's the product, what's the service, who does it help, and then what's the right message to reach that audience. And by the way, there can be multiple messages, multiple audiences, but hey, let's start with one, right? And I think that when you get off trying to figure out, oh, how do we reach everyone? That's going to help solve that, right? And I think that's really important, that we don't try to reach everyone. We try to target specific audience. And I think that will make a big difference, because you're never going to be everything to everyone, nor frankly, should you be. It's not going to work. But what does work is getting the right system in focus, targeting, one particular focus, and then we rock on to the next one. So step by step, but here's the truth. Some steps are going to work really good, and we've got to see what works, where the connection is to your right message. And again, knowing that it evolves. Publicity is an evolutionary process. And so we start where we start and keep evolving it.
And then, yeah, definitely wanted to tie in Scott's question here from the chat. So how do you differentiate between the marketing and the PR aspects, and figuring out, where in the process to implement PR?
Great, thank you, Scott. So first of all, let me just define public relations. And so from my perspective, public relations happens from the minute you walk out your door, right? Your proverbial door. It's the customer, it's their perception, it's your what you're putting out there. It's all public relations, my friends. It's all public relations, including you showing up in networking groups like this, right? It's all PR. So here's the thing. I want you to think of marketing like a tree, right? You're growing this beautiful tree, and on the branches is public relations, very important branches. Now, the deal is your public relations begins as a startup right when you open your doors. And in fact, to be honest, I started with startups before they open their doors. Kind of same thing with people who are putting out books. You start publicity before you need it, my friends, before your startup doors even open. And it's absolutely one of the things that starts with your startup. From the minute you're open, from the minute you are seen in the marketplace, at whatever marketplace you're in. So it's all, you should be figuring about 10% of your budget oriented and allocated to publicity, period. I mean, 10 to 15%, but certainly 10% of your overall operating budgets. Yeah. And I think that that's really, really important.
And then how far into so if you have a message that doesn't seem to be working or capturing your audience, how long do you usually, go before trying to tweak and create a new message to bring out to the market?
Well, one of my systems for messaging is every 30 days. Look at your message every 30 days. Listen, it's key, it shifts. These don't have to be long meetings and initiatives, but I do think a relook is important. And then, paying attention to what is going on in the news. Where can you fit in? Because your message may be slightly different depending on what is happening in the news. Yeah. In terms of what's going on. Like, hang on, there is somebody up here. Bear with me. Annie's a company, with the home learning, with the learning environment, and the home learning environment obviously is a great story in today's times, today's moments. Why? Because this is the key in home learning environments, is obviously a relevant topic for these times, right? And so congratulations on that. We want to be talking about that. Oh my gosh, yes, you got to stay connected. And here's a simple app that shows you how. So we want to tie in her story to the story of the necessity of the home learning environment now, and the shift to the home learning environment now. And that's perfect. But I do think, don't get too attached to your message, just because in life you can't get too attached in any way to the things that are happening right now. But I think the mistake a lot of startups make, honestly, is that you're not focusing on your message right from the beginning. You're too focused on, well, got to open the doors and start the company, and kind of in the weeds, so to speak. But that's why people like me exist, so that we can come in with you as the eagle and look at the right message that matters, that can consistently walk you through your first phase.
I think that's a great example, because, especially these last, 2 years or so, we've had a lot of companies, especially on the tech side, education is a great example there too, where they are solving a need that we've never really had, or, we've had the needs before, but it's been accelerated through the pandemic, through remote circumstances, and, staying up to date in that, this is what our message is right now, but also our message is going to change, as everything goes back to in person, and we're still going to need the remote side, as well as how we help in other areas. And, the overall mission and message might change, but if you update every 30 days or so, and, keep top of mind, keep up with current events, it definitely helps your brand stay out there in front of everything else that's going on in the world. So yeah, I really like that.
Big time.
Cool. And then, so on the, I'll give a specific side of PR, if we're reaching out to, say, journalists or, other publications that are probably also receiving dozens of requests, like, what are some of the best ways to make sure you stand out to the people that are reviewing it, to see how their audience is going to react?
So a couple things. One is I want to encourage all of you to go on Google Alerts and put in the name of your company, your name as the founder, and also one word about that relates to what it is you're out there putting out there, right? In terms of what the subject matter is. And I would tell you, here's the good news. You will know who's talking about it, where the relevance is, and how, and then, it'll keep you up to date with what the consistency matter is. Because the thing about publicity that works is to be persistent and consistent in the marketplace. And, frankly, that makes a big difference for you to stand out as a company. over others. And I think that'll really support an ongoing effort that really actually works. But again, look every 30 days at your message. Let's get your bios right. No more boring bios, but get a bio that stands out, that's interesting, that drives people to know more. And bios are actually really important, that you have them ready to go. This is not things, by the way, my friends, that you want to be circling the wagons and, oh my gosh, I don't have my bio together, or a good headshot, or I'm ready to rock at any moment. Because when the media needs you, it's like now for interviews quickly. With Profit of Kindness, I got called on for Inc. magazine. I've been in it twice, Forbes magazine twice. All of you want to be in those kinds of magazines, right? And so imagine this, if you being ready. And by ready, I mean you have the bio and the message in place. You have certain tools of publicity that help you right away. And I think that's important, Jason, that we get those foundational pieces easily ready to go.
I think that's great advice. Yeah, always be ready for the next big event, and be ready to go out there and sort of seize the spotlight. And yeah, I have another question I'm going to ask in a second, but I also wanted to give the opportunity if anybody wants to raise their hand, and then yeah, just use it's under the reaction button. There's a raise hand feature. We can bring you onto stage for any questions. But yeah, so I wanted to ask, this is something that also came up in the Clubhouse social audio room we were running the other day too. Is really, you just brought up the topic of setting Google alerts on the brand itself, and staying up to date with how people are talking about your company. And sometimes it's getting involved on the positive side. Sometimes it's reacting to like any negative criticisms and having a good response there. And there's also current events and topics. So for brands, like, or I guess, yeah, I mean, one of the topics we were discussing is really, if you don't respond or if you stay silent on an issue, how does that impact your brand's credibility and visibility in the market?
Yeah, great question. Well, honestly, I'd rather you stay silent if you're not quite confident. What I've noticed in working with literally thousands of CEOs and different businesses is as you get your message right, your confidence accelerates tremendously, right? And I think that makes a big difference, is that confidence. So I'm a bit in the camp of stay quiet until you got it enough together that you can get your message out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Progress, not perfection, right? But let's at least get you able to answer some questions. I mean, here's the truth. Most media interviews in your local marketplaces, in your ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox TV affiliates, and radio will be 4 to 5 minutes, my friends. 4 to 5 minutes. Not even as long as this call. So you can be smart and focused and simple and effective in that time. You can, spout a few opinions, and that's a good thing. So, I just want people able to speak for that amount of time, and then we're good. And it again does not have to be perfect. That waiting till everything's perfect is what's going to freeze you. And most importantly, I want PR to be part of your budget, part of your focus, move you so that your company moves. Because when people know about your company, then you become more profitable. That's what's true. And so that messaging piece is one of the key elements.
Right. Not having a great company or product that nobody knows about. Yeah, I get, spreading the word and having people recognize everything you built.
Yeah, it's important. Otherwise, why do it, right? You're spending your time, energy, money, focus. Others need to know about it. It's really essential.
And yeah, I'll take some time here. Does anybody have any questions they either want to unmic and ask or put into the chat.
Beautiful. While they're doing that, Jason, can I just mention, if you want some support with particularly the messaging, let me help you. I'm very good at this. It's one of my gifts from God, as I like to call it, and the opportunity to walk through your message with you, look at your PR strategy and focus, and help you to the next level with it. I do something I call magic bullet sessions. Please, let's schedule those together, and we'll post in the chat how you can do that, as well as an opportunity to just talk to me and see what do you need and what will best serve you. But with many of you, these magic bullet sessions will be a great first start and very affordable. So I think that'd be a great thing to do.
I'm intrigued. What's a magic bullet session?
Oh, magic bullet session. I know, isn't it a fun name? There are 2 30-minute sessions, very specifically separated so that there's some marinating time, and we're gonna dig in and get to the heart of your message, make it so that it is simple and easy. I'm gonna actually also look at what are you putting out there? What is it? How's it landing? Who are you in the marketplace, and how can we reach more? So I think that would be a good agenda for our magic bullet sessions, particularly for most of you in startup phase, is to go and to be focused specifically on the message first, because honestly, without a great message, that's going to be where you'll fall out. So I'd recommend the magic bullet sessions as a great first step for all of you.
That would be great. So that's the best place to start, or where should people be connecting with all the content and information that you put out?
Yeah, thank you. I think that'd be a great first place to start. We put it in the chat for how you register for that. And then we'll also direct you to, go check me out on LinkedIn, please. Mary Beth, maybe you can put my LinkedIn information. Please stay connected no matter what.
Sounds good. Cool. So on the startups and brands themselves, are there any, I know we've covered a lot of topics here already. Are there any sort of major challenges you see a lot of your customers facing that we haven't really touched on yet? Where, I'm sure it's always, if one company is facing it, chances are everybody else is behind the scenes as well. So yeah, anything that sticks out that, you see a lot of businesses going through today?
Well, certainly the messaging. And I think that in the pivoting that everybody has, had to go through, in the pivoting, shall we say, new opportunity to redirect your message. Even as a startup, the truth is sometimes you just got to redirect your message and make sure that the focus will be on who are you now, what's most important. So I think that's the biggest challenge for people. Not only, the good news about being a startup, for instance, is in the Great Resignation, one of the hot topics in the media right now, you can be an answer to that, a solution to that, because startups are, newly creating opportunities for people, new opportunities, sometimes work at home opportunities, an opportunity to redirect employees who are quitting from other things, right? And I think that is a great time, great moment right now to seize, like, where and who are we now? Right? Where and who are we now, so that others care? So, and really taking a look at that. And I think staying what I'll call up to date, watching the trends is really helpful and will really support people to focus on you.
Incredible. Yeah, I like that reference there as well. And, it's been a big push for both the new startups, like people leaving their job, creating a company they've always been wanting to create, and finally, now being able to do so, or also joining other opportunities and out there looking for support there. So yeah, definitely, a lot of changes going on in the world, and I like the frame you said of for companies and startups specifically, a pivot doesn't have to be, you failed at something and changed direction. It can be more you spotted a new opportunity or a different messaging that applies to more people now, and you go after that as your new vision and mission for your startup.
Exactly. You got it, Jason. And, realize all of you have a message, a mission, values. All of you have important, well, whatever you're offering, right? And so putting it in a way that others get, perceive, and say yes to is important. And we start where we're going to start. Each one of you are in different places around that. But what I know in working with a lot of startups, which I have, and specifically been hired for startups because of my ability to support messaging and take a look at the broader picture and do it step by step, is that sometimes this piece gets a little left out. It's a little lonely, the publicity piece, mostly because honestly, a CEO of a startup, listen, you're all brilliant in what you're brilliant at. And that's why you're doing your startup, because that's the passion that drives you with, putting that product specifically out to market, or that service out to market. But the other point is now the step back and looking at, what does that mean to the others? What does that mean to your audience? And why should they care? And that's what we're going to create.
Yeah, it's all about exactly what you just said. The audience, or yeah, the audience and what they're looking to achieve or gain from everything you put out in the world. So yeah, I think taking that fresh perspective and working with somebody like yourself to help create a message that anybody can understand why it's valuable and why it's important.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, just wanted to sort of wrap up with a final question here around basically on creating that, or yeah, creating that why really. So we have another community we partner with and sort of run as well called Prepare for VC and the Startup Oasis, and everyone that enters into that space, we start with a question for everybody that jumps in is like, what's the why that behind the startup you're creating and why it's really important to you. So yeah, my question to wrap up here would be, how can founders or entrepreneurs, anybody else that's coming out to the event today or listening beyond on our YouTube channel, sort of figure out, what that one purpose for them should be that both they care about and the people they bring onto their team, the people that become their customers, anybody else they want to get on board as well, really cares about as well.
So tell me the question again.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sort of to reframe a little bit, it's just, if you haven't quite figured out how to phrase and, put your why into words, what's the best way to sort of start that process?
So I would start with the message formula. And one of my message formulas is, the problem today is, and fill that in, my friends, fill that in. Not like, here's what we do, but what's the problem today? And that will help you start and encapsulate a message that becomes part of a solution to the problem. So once you get that question, then we can operate to solutions and let people know next steps. And I think that that's really important. Okay, so that's where I'd start.
Perfect. Yeah, no, really appreciate all the advice you've given and everybody that's came out to our chat today. And yeah, definitely check through all the links that are in there for all those great opportunities to continue and continue to learn from Jill here. And then on our side too, you should all be on our startup grind newsletter now that you're registered for the event. So we'll have the first week in March, we're doing a chat on creating your MVP, your minimal viable product, and what the best way to go about that process is. And then we'll also be announcing a summit event in collaboration with a few other organizations, the Venture Forward Summit, the end of March as well. So that should be out in the next week here. And yeah, anything else we can help with, we have a variety of partners and sponsors listed on the startupgrind.com/Boston website. I'll put that in the chat as well. And they're all brought in because they support startups and create great opportunities to grow and scale your businesses. So yeah, again, that really appreciate all the advice and insights you've given all of us here, Jill. And yeah, we'll post this on our YouTube channel for anybody to look back to, and also share in a follow-up with all of our attendees.
Jason, thank you. It's a delight to be with all of you. I love the work startups are doing. I love your passion and your focus. And now's the moment, at the beginning, in the right time, to get focused on your message, your PR, and take yourself forward so that the rest of the world knows about you and can say yes to you.
That's perfect. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to end with anything but that. So that's a great way to wrap up here. And now's the time to figure out your messaging and accelerate your startups. Thanks again.